Can anyone play Monopoly? Does anyone understand the rules of Monopoly? Can we have a show of hands, please? Right, that's good. Okay. So Monopoly is still the world's #1 board game, strangely enough. I've always preferred Twister myself. It's Monopoly and how to win by understanding the rules. Okay, so just a little bit of revision about the rules of Monopoly. First of all, you've got to realise it's just a game. Okay, so when you lose, I do know people that actually get quite upset when they're playing Monopoly, but it's supposed to be just a game, so when you do start losing, there's no point getting upset by it. You need a token to play the game. As I say, unlike Twister, where you actually get on the board and play it yourself, there's not enough room on the Monopoly board, so you need a token to play. More about that in a bit. The currency used is just totally worthless paper. I've actually got PDF files for anyone that wants some more Monopoly money. And the object of the game is to bankrupt all opponents. So once you realise it's a game, and that's what the object is, then don't take it personally when they're trying to get the money off you. To win, obviously you need to know all the rules. We'll be looking at some of the rules about playing the global financial system in a minute. So, to start off with, it's just a game. No point getting upset if obviously you start losing. Their plan is to take you for every penny you've got. Once you actually learn the rules, your plan is then to stop them. Okay, and we'll be explaining a little bit later on about strategies for playing this game. Your token to play the game. Right, so the token in Monopoly, that's my favourite one, it's always the racing car. Yeah. But you've also got the shoe, you've got an iron, you've got a few other sort of tokens. Does anyone know what what we'll do?
Ship.
You got a ship? Yeah, the old battleship. Right, you also need a token to play the game, to play the global financial system or the global commerce system. Now, has anyone got any credit cards on them?
Yep.
Right, can I ask if anyone got a credit card on them to take them out for a moment, please? I'll just get the machine to swipe. If you hand them all to me, no, hold on to them. I'll get mine out as well.
No swapping, all of it.
We'll play who's got the most, shall we? No, we won't do that. Okay. Something you'll notice about your credit cards, or your debit cards, or your driving licence, but not your cooperative card, but all the other cards, the driving licence even, God. You'll notice that the name's in capital uppercase, capital letters. Has anyone got a credit card or a debit card where their name is in title case? That's the first letter capitalised and the rest lowercase. Sorry?
I have, but it's not with me.
It's not with you. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Right, I'd like to see that one. You'll tend to find that everything, your utility bills, any bills from corporations, banks, credit cards will have your name in capital letters. Your name in capital letters isn't you. That's your token to play the game. Okay? Right, so now if you look in Black's Law Dictionary, and this is about as serious as we go into commercial law. However, you've got to understand this. Black's Law Dictionary, revised 1968, cited as legal authority in many Supreme Court cases, provides a definition as follows. For capitis I never did Latin at school, I went to grammar school unfortunately. Capitis diminutio, meaning the diminution of status through the use of capitalisation in Roman law. And our law basically comes from Greco-Roman. A diminishing or abridgment of personality, a loss or curtailment of a man's status or aggregate of legal attributes and qualifications. To carry on, capitis diminutio Dimitio Maxima, which is your name all in uppercase, meaning a maximum loss of status through the use of capitalization. It's quite interesting. It's not because they haven't got the fonts to make the credit card machines. It actually means something in law, despite most barristers being unaware of this. So, in full, your name in full capitals is the highest or most comprehensive loss of status. This occurs when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage. When he became a slave, it swept away all rights of citizenship and family rights. That is your name in capital letters. However, it is only a token to play the global commerce game. And it is a game, so it's just like that's your little ship, or your shoe, or your boat, whatever. It's not real, it's just a game. And we'll be and I'll explain how to actually get over that. Sorry? That's from Black's Law Dictionary, that quote is, yeah. It's also known as the straw man. I should be following my notes here, really, but I'm trying to do that. It's also known as the straw man. It's a government-created legal fiction. Okay, there's a number of words. It's also referred to as an artificial person as opposed to a natural person. Depending which law books you look at, they've got different versions. But it actually means something different from the actual living, breathing you. Okay. The currency used is just totally worthless paper. The actual paper and the coins is a very, very small fraction of our currency. Most of it is created on computers as necessary. It doesn't actually exist until you actually get a new credit card. And then they create that money as and when is needed on a computer screen. At one time, a pound meant a pound of silver in the UK. That's why we have sterling. I've got Alistair to thank for that, because I thought it was based on gold, but in this country it was based on silver. So now, if you think how much silver, you wouldn't get a pound of silver for £1 coin, would you? You'd be lucky to get any.
You're talking about a pound weight.
Originally, a pound, as in a pound note, was your receipt for a pound of sterling silver.
In weight.
In weight. Yes, yes. So it's a lot of silver. So, so it's obviously worth an awful lot less now. Right. Now we've just got a little interview. This is Aaron Russo, who unfortunately died last year. He's a Hollywood producer. He actually directed the film Freedom to Fascism, and he's interviewing a guy called Ron Paul. Ron Paul is a presidential candidate who is still in the running for presidential, for the 2008 American presidency. He spent 10 years as a congressman and working on basically economics forums. So he knows a little bit about the Federal Reserve. Now, I know we're looking at the Federal Reserve here. It's exactly the same as the Bank of England.
So the Federal Reserve is actually an illegal entity functioning within government.
It's illegal, and what we have given to this so-called agency is the authority to counterfeit money.
Do you have any points of view about the Federal Reserve and how the Federal Reserve operates?
They just enter something on a computer. Oh, you need 20 billion today. Here's 20 billion, but they got that out of thin air. It came out of thin air, it goes to the Treasury then pays the bills.
So it's no different than monopoly money.
All countries who have ever attempted to create money on thin air, the currency is eventually destroyed.
Why did we give a monopoly of creating money out of thin air to a private corporation? The result is exactly the same as if someone were picking your pocket every year, because that's exactly what they're doing.
Originally, paper was a receipt which is used as evidence that the money exists. Over the years, of course, the government has disconnected the paper from the actual tangible substance, which is money. So now we have a piece of paper which is evidence of nothing.
Greenspan and the other central bankers want you to believe that the receipt, the paper, is the real money. This is nothing more than sleight of hand. It's a magician's trick. Because for them to maintain control over the government and the people, they have to convince you that this paper is really money. Because that is the essence of their power and our powerlessness to maintain control over our own government.
Wake up, you idiots. Whatever made you think paper was so valuable? Because in 1913, a group of politicians who were actually paid for by the bankers actually took over the US Treasury effectively and created the Federal Reserve totally illegally. With the Bank of England, it's far more difficult to actually follow its history. It was supposed to have been nationalised, but it's still owned by private bankers in the City of London. If you look at the chairman, if you look at all the chairs of the Bank of England and the board of governors of the Bank of England, they actually have all got connections to the banking families which created the Federal Reserve. And it's exactly the same for the Bank of International Settlements and the European Central Bank. They're all in it together, unfortunately. Another one, if you want to know more about money, there's two films on the internet at the moment. One called Money as Debt, and the other called The Money Masters. And they're both very, very good background information for this. So, money is mostly created on a computer screen. A very small percentage is actually made into notes, because most of the time we use plastic. It's all just little, noughts and ones on a computer, inside a computer. So there you go, back to your Monopoly money. Right, and of course the object of the game, because that's all it is, it's a game, is to bankrupt all the opponents. Until you end up, I don't know, can you go to jail these days? I don't think you can now. You get bankrupted. So, their plan is to take every penny you've got. Your plan is to stop them. So the important thing is, it is just a game, and so the important thing is to actually enjoy playing it. However, you're at a distinct disadvantage if you don't understand the rules. And there we go, the rules for Monopoly. Now, what you can realise is that the people we're dealing with now don't take it personally, because when you get a letter from the bank and you think, oh God, they're asking you when they're chasing you for 10p or something, or 100k or whatever it is, and you start getting upset. You've got to understand, it's just people working in the system. They don't realise that the whole thing is totally fraudulent. They're just doing their job. So I think the important thing, the secret to winning the game for everyone, is to assume a deficiency of love in your opponent and then apply some. That was a classic one. So it's a matter of treating these people, if you've got debt collectors phoning you up every day and being rude, you don't have to be rude back to them. It is a game. You can actually treat them with a little bit of humour, a little bit of understanding. And what's interesting, of course, is being in debt is one of the consequences of playing the game. Why do you think our government is in debt? There isn't enough money in circulation, unless the Rothschilds give up their own private hoard, but there isn't enough money in circulation to actually pay off the debt. Because if they actually create this much money on a credit card for you, say that's £1,000, they're going to be wanting about £1,200 back. Well, that £1,200 hasn't been created. So the problem is that the economy either has to grow, or some people are going to default on their loans or credit cards. That's part of the system. It's not necessarily because they're useless with money, it's because the money hasn't yet been created. And this is why businesses fail and people go into debt. It's all part of the game. Purely because the money is actually borrowed into existence. Okay, so we're going to look at rules of engagement here. for credit cards and banking debts. And so what I'm going to do is just give you a few simple rules. Okay, I am putting together a website at the moment. I'll give you the address a little bit later. For those of you who might actually be having, if you've got any problems with this, it's a great game to play. It's far better than the normal board game Monopoly. It's far more interesting. But and these rules, I would suggest that you don't use it for your mortgage or your utility companies. I stick to sort of loans and banks at the moment, because the problem with mortgages, they can, until you've actually taken your house out of your straw man name and got it into your own name, I wouldn't actually do it. And utility companies can be sods, because whether you've actually got a lawful, whether they've got, you actually owe the money lawfully or not, they'll still cut your services. So, and there aren't many courts which are happy to actually, they tend to side with the utility companies rather than sticking with contract law, which is what we're sticking with. Okay, so don't do that, but obviously once you know what you're doing, then obviously, yeah, give it a go. Right, so the important thing, and so if you think with a credit, if you owe your bank or credit card company any money, surely they should be able to provide you an invoice. Is anyone self-employed here? We've got quite a few people who are self-employed. Does anyone who's self-employed pay? Does anyone pay statements and then give the statement and the bank number to your accountant or your bookkeeper? Does anyone pay statements, or do you pay invoices? Invoices, yeah. If you pay, I was self-employed for a few years. If ever I actually couldn't find the invoices, oh well, there's 3 invoices here. Oh, I've got a statement. That'll actually match up. That's no good. You've actually got to phone up those companies and get an invoice. However, with your credit card company and even with your bank, they will not invoice you. And yet, you've got a right under commercial law to actually ask for an invoice and a signed invoice. And of course, you have a right to ask for it in your name, which isn't the uppercase name. We've already seen that. That's just your token to play the game. When you go to court and they ask you your name and you say, yes, that's right, they're reading it uppercase. You didn't realise that. They're tricking you to contract with the court. You don't have to contract with the court. When the policeman asks you what your name is, they say, oh, can you give me your name, please, sir? They say, yes, which name would you like? Would you like my legal name or my lawful name? I don't know about that. So you can have some fun. And of course, you can ask for proof of a lawful contract. So your credit card company say, well, hang on, I've got a really bad memory. Look, I've got so many credit cards here that I can't honestly remember actually having a contract. So could you send me a copy of the contract, please? Just to confirm that we actually have a legally binding contract. Now, they might be able to send you a photocopy of the original application form, but of course it will only have your signature. It won't have the banker's signature on, which makes it, in normal contract law, you need an offer and acceptance. Now, what they do with debt collectors, they're very clever. I don't know if anyone's had... No, I won't ask you to put your hand up if you've been chased by debt collectors. Right. So, what they do, they phone you up. They don't actually want to deal with you in writing, because what they want to do is just harass you, because they know deep down they haven't got the law on their side. So what they'll do, they'll actually phone you up, and often they'll phone you up sometimes twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, sometimes every day except Sunday. So, and once you know it's a game, you can have some real fun with them. Now, what they tend to do is say, can you pay something, anything? How about a pound a month? And you think, that's quite a good deal. You know, I owe them £5,000, £1 a month, and they're going to be off my back. It's brilliant. Don't do it. If you offer to pay them £1 a month, you are entering into a verbal contract with them because you're agreeing to pay them something. They're saying, I mean, if you're saying, oh, by the way, you owe me a tenner. Oh, I've just remembered. I owe Alistair.
And me.
A tenner. Not 20.
That'll be nice. That's interest, is it?
Can you give the other tenner to Rosemary?
Right.
It is totally worthless. I've only got my 20. I might have to try and win the prize money actually here. But just one. No, I've got £3. I need to sell some DVDs tonight. Yeah. So, what they do, they will ask you. And remember, of course, on the telephone, they always say, oh, we record these telephone conversations for training purposes. They don't record them for training purposes. They record these conversations so they can trick you into a verbal contract. Now, if I said to Alistair or Rosemary, look, I don't owe you £10. But you say, yes you do, okay, I'll pay you £1 a week. I've just agreed with you, verbally, by tacitly, rather than obviously, that I owe you some money. So, because if I'm going to pay you £1 a week, why would I pay you £1 a week unless I agree to the fact that I owe you money? Well, it's good night, by the way. So
that's only through honesty, isn't it? You know, that's only worked through, like two
yes. However,
a verbal agreement isn't decided. It's not.
A verbal agreement can be held up because they've recorded it, or it can be held up in a court of law. So yeah, it is as it's as good as it's more difficult to prove, but they've got their tapes. Oh, you agreed to pay us £1 a month. Therefore, we'll pursue through the courts for the whole lot. So it's all part of the game. It's only a game. Once you actually know what the game's about, you can have some great fun, especially with debt collectors. They've not got bloody chance. They haven't even got first-hand knowledge of the contract or supposed contract. So another thing, ask for debt collectors of proof of agency. So act them if they're a legal agent on behalf of the bank or whoever it is. It's very difficult for them to actually, well, they rarely have, to be honest. I've never been produced, no one's actually shown proof of agency to me. And the important thing to do is give them, in the same way as they give you 14 days, 10 days, I think that's plenty, give them 10 days to respond. Because you know contract law better than they do. All they're doing is following their little sheet. So once you actually get the hang of this, you can have some fun with this. Right. If they do not respond within 10 days, you can then have what's called a tacit agreement with them. Okay. And you can make up your own terms. Now, some people make up far better terms than I've got here. Because if you can't prove... So, Rosemary... You're saying that I owe you £10. Well, I don't agree. Yeah, I disagree. Can you prove it? And if you can't prove it within 10 days, then I think that you actually owe me £20 if you can't prove it, because I want £10 damages. And you can do exactly the same. Because if somebody is demanding money from you and unable to show any documentary evidence within a reasonable amount of time, you can then turn around and say to them, well, we agree to the following terms. Because if you can't prove that I owe you any money, and of course they can't because they won't invoice you, they won't invoice you in your name, you'll never get the whole lot.
By your name, do you mean the lowercase name?
Yes, your title case. So it's quite okay to have the first letter of your name, but not the whole thing in capitals, because we know that's like the ship. And you can decide, once you know it's a game, you decide whether you want to move the top hat, around the board. No, I'm not going to touch that. If I touch that, I'm going to start contract. I'm not going to touch that. No, I know this game.
But also, John, if you have actually made a written, sealed contract with
a moneylender or wherever,
Yes.
and a debt collector has bought that debt, unless you have agreed to that debt being able to be sold,
Yes.
then the debt collector has no legal call on you whatsoever.
Right.
because
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah,
I
because
wasn't aware of that.
Because your contract was made with the credit card
I
company. or
totally
whatever,
agree with that.
and
Totally agree
and
with
not
that.
with the debt collector.
I would presume they would have to act as a legal agent.
They have to, yes.
Buy the debt for. So what the bank does, the bank writes off the debt completely. So the bank doesn't lose anything, and as far as he didn't actually lose anything if you don't pay him back because they created the money out of thin air in the first place.
And they got 10 pence to the pound anyway.
And they only get another 10p in the pound. They can't lose. So you agree that either you don't owe them anything or the debt's already being paid. It doesn't matter. One of the two. And that any negative remarks made to a credit scoring agency will be removed. And remember, this is a lawfully binding contract here. And they will no longer pursue you. Now, I leave that one out because I love it when they phone up. You can have a real laugh with them. But more of that later. Okay, do not, under any circumstances. I would say shouldn't really. I do speak to them on the phone because I just love talking to them. Because what you do, you immediately say, right, who are you? Phoning me up. You're asking me if I owe you any money. And they say, yeah, so what's your name? Can I have your full name, please? And can I have your date of birth? They won't always give you that. But you got their date of birth, you can actually track them down. And you have their address. Can I have your direct phone number, please? And your mobile number? That's difficult. Sometimes if you get them on the back foot enough and just keep asking them questions, they will actually answer. But try and get their mobile number, because they'll try and get your mobile number. So... generally, I say don't speak to them on the phone. The first time they phone you, say, "Excuse me, I'd like to deal with this. I'd like to deal with this in writing." Okay, and so you say, if you phone me up any more times, and they will try and phone you up the whole time. What you do, you explain to them you want to do it in writing, and if they continue to harass you, you can then pursue them for harassment. And I've actually got the date on the website that I'm putting together. I've actually got the rules about how you can actually pursue them. So what you do, you just write down a telephone log and just log every time they phone you. However, what you do the second time they phone you, don't say you're out, because that would be lying. And I try and act always honourably and always tell the truth and act lawfully. So I'm not trying to get anyone to break the law here. But what I'll say is, just one moment, as if you're just about to go and get that person. So I'll ask, is Jon Witterick there, please? Just one moment. And then I put the phone down very quietly. Ros knows this because she actually picked the phone up and gave him my mobile number. Put the phone down, and what I do, just for comic effect, is tiptoe away very quietly. And normally, on average, 4 minutes. If you can get them to hang on for 5 minutes, it's great. 4 minutes is normally sort of once they've done that a few times, they will give up. They will give up. Yeah, especially. But I mean, I do that. So if I've got time, if I don't feel like talking to them, I'll do the creep away very quietly. If I've got time, it's like Jehovah's Witnesses. I like to invite them in for a cup of tea and actually challenge them. But you haven't always got time. Sometimes they catch you at awkward times. So I would say generally, until you actually really start enjoying playing the game, don't speak to them. If it's your first time, don't speak to them on the phone. Don't offer to pay anything. I've gone through that one already. Okay? Don't get worried, scared, or intimidated by them. I mean, they're only doing their job. And if you do get intimidated or scared or upset or you lose sleep, don't play the game. Pay them off, go to CAB and bankrupt yourself or something. But remember, the whole thing is about understanding what's going on and staying in your power. Okay, so where are we? 47. I've totally forgotten where my notes are. Where I am in my notes. On slide 47. Oh right, okay, I haven't got a clue. So anyway. Okay, so as we've already said, we're just about to have a break and have some food. A verbal agreement with a debt collector is more enforceable than the unilateral one with the bank. So So this is why, when they say, can you offer us £1 a month? No, don't do it. It's a trick. It's a good trick, but it's a trick. Do not agree to pay anything unless they can provide you with the evidence that you owe anything. Very simple. So, just general rules. Always be truthful. Because I'm not trying to get, this isn't about ripping the banks off. It's about being honest, truthful and law-abiding. And that's all I'm trying to encourage people to do. And stand up for their power. So always be truthful. Always respond politely. These people, this is their livelihood. They've got to feed their children. But they're not going to, but you don't want to feed their children. Get someone else to feed their children. Or, and if not enough people do it, then they'll actually go out and get a proper job, rather than like giving people grief down the phone. Always act honourably and always act lawfully, not necessarily legally, but lawfully. It's quite different. Lawfully, legally that's all their statutes, that's all the laws that the government made up. The laws that we're sticking by is contract law. These are the really old laws.
What about ignoring them altogether?
Well, actually, if you go to CAB, the first thing is say, oh, you've got debt collectors after you. Don't ignore them. It's not a very honourable thing to do. However, it's actually a very good strategy. Because what they do, they fish in the same way as emails fish. That's PH phishing. What they'll do, they'll phone up lots of people, and as soon as they get one person sort of saying, oh yes, I owe you some money, right, okay, they think, bang, great, and they then go to a sort of like a list where they get phoned up twice a day or whatever, and lots of grief.
So they look for somebody who's
somebody that, and I try to sort of encourage them to phone me up as much as possible these days.
It costs them money, doesn't it?
Sorry?
It costs them money.
It costs money,
which doesn't exist.
That's right, yeah. It does, yeah. So, the other thing I would say is don't get greedy. Obviously, if you're in debt, discharge your debts. But it'd be very easy to go out and get 10 credit cards and make an absolute killing of this. If you do that, you're playing exactly the same game as they are. And so I don't think if you want to make lots of money, go and play the commerce game and work hard and do it. But I don't think it really works. We're trying to set the banks an example here. So if you're doing it so you can buy your new Porsche, just so you look like another banker, merchant banker, that's Cockney rhyming slang, by the way. Sorry, moving swiftly on. Right. Okay, and so for more details, I'm putting this website together. I was hoping to have it up together for tonight, but it's not quite there yet. But I have bought the domain name today, and it's called Get Out of Debt Free. And that's going to be, the cards are going to be hanging out. So, just like, because it is all a game, and so I thought it'd be useful to, I'm going to print those out as flyers. Tired of playing the global financial system? So just go to getoutofdebtfree.org.
It's all in capital letters, isn't it?
Yeah.
Send one to your bank.
Only because it's based on the exact, I think it's one of the early Monopoly things.
Oh, yeah.
How long is it going to take for the bankers to get that taken off the web?
We'll see.
Yeah.
So I did it in your name, Alistair.